Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Okay, good day and welcome to another edition of My Hometown. I'm your host, Bob Hempel, ELA teacher at Massapequa High School. My guests today are Mr. Michael Draper, health teacher, coach, and club leader at Massapequa High, and Jac Bernard, Massapequa High School alumnus, emerging actor, and coffee barista. Today we're going to discuss issues surrounding gender equality in schools and society. Our topics for discussion today are defining gender equality, schools, clubs as agents for change, teacher-student challenges, careering, theater and film, and our final thoughts. I just want to say right up front, I'm so excited to be here, and welcome Jac and welcome Mike. I'm so glad you both could make it.
Me too. Thanks for having us.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome. So we've got a limited amount of time, so I'm going to get right to it. We want to talk today about gender equality, and try to define that as best we can. I'm going to start with something quickly read and see what your actions are to them. Okay, gender equality, one definition is achieved when women and men enjoy the same rights and opportunities across all sectors of society, including economic participation and decision-making, as well as when the different behaviors, aspirations, and needs of women and men are equally valued and favored. Mike, I'm going to ask you, how do you respond to that definition? Do you see it as accurate, helpful, have any utility?
Well, I would first question what it means to be male or female. You know, you could first discuss gender identity, gender expression, and an individual's biological sex or intersex, and lastly, someone's sexual orientation. So I feel like the gender binary, the basic male or female, as we're all so used to, is extremely outdated, and we really more have to focus on individuals.
Mm-hmm. So rigid classification is part of the problem.
I think so. I think everything is very fluid and needs to be thought of that way, and of course, individualized.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about this definition, just to extend a little bit with you, is it mentions the word different, which I highlight in my mind, and I think that's going to be important. Obviously, aspirations and needs of women and men equally, or people as we ought to really think of them. And just in terms of you as a health teacher, does anything come in mind in terms of you bringing up the idea of distinct divisions?
Well, it kind of, I talk about a lot of gender identity issues, and we also get into society. And the definition also stated society, too. So societal norms come into play here, too.
Right.
You know, over my lifetime, societal norms have changed tremendously. So like I said, you know, the definitions are fluid and open to interpretation based on personal life experiences. So you try to give all the students their say or their thoughts, and let them express their thoughts in a peaceful, non-judgmental environment.
Which is what we wish society would catch up to a little bit. Right?
That's for sure.
One of the reasons for the show. So we're going to go back and forth a little bit, and thank you for your response. Jac, same question if you've been looking or listening to that definition.
I think that there's almost more to it than what this definition provides. I feel like not everybody even is a man or a woman, you know? I feel like it's and I know this sounds very kind of PC, politically correct, and very 2017, but you know, I feel like it's too gendered in talking about gender equality, which might sound like it makes no sense, but I think that in a way there's this new thing that's happening that's kind of gender equality in the way that things are becoming less gendered. And yes, there must be some kind of binary, in my opinion, that some people are in the middle of and choose not to, or a lot of times they don't choose. Like, I didn't choose my gender identity. It just is how I'm wired. But
right.
But in my opinion, if there wasn't a binary, then why would I feel like a man? You know? But I think that, yeah, I think what you said before with people, I think people should all be treated equally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the equality is another word I want to look at. I'm an English teacher, so I think words and how we approach this timely conversation on radio and beyond, right, is important. The words that we use for the masses, right, for society, if we're going to make change. One of the things I just want to bring up here, being an English teacher, this is not a new problem. We live in the American culture. I think it's worth our time today to stay within that and not go too global. And so I'm going to bring out a few words that I love from a poem by Walt Whitman, who was a pioneer in my mind in terms of when he lived, 1880s, 1890s, writing Leaves of Grass. And he had this poem that begins like this, and I quote him, "I celebrate myself, and I sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging in me as good belongs to you." And I obviously have my own ideas about Walt and why I teach him, but he was quite a free spirit and ahead of his day in the 1800s. Yet we're still wrestling with the issues that he brought to the forefront as a writer, which are gender and race and the social issues at hand. I'm going to go to Jack. Jack, how do you interpret what do you take away from Whitman's words here relevant to our topic today?
I believe that this is kind of this to me signifies unity and treating others as you would like to be treated. I think it's understanding that everybody is all part of the same human condition and that everybody goes through things and kind of has to have each other's back for everybody to have sort of a safe journey through life and through society and through finding themselves as they grow and change. And it's really the respect that every human has that.
So humanities 101, equality, respect, and not deviating off that out of what understanding? Like, what does Whitman bring to your idea about that? How does Whitman make you think about that?
That we're all kind of, I guess, we're all kind of composed of the same soil, of the same grounding. We all come from the same basic process of being born, of being thrown into this society, you know, and we all kind of have to take what we're given and where we came from and adapt it and build it so that it fits us. And sometimes we end up starting trends and setting precedents, and other people learn from those new ways of living. And I think we're always, as people, we're always showing each other things and bringing something to the table. And I think that this piece references that as well.
Beautifully articulated. And
Thank
Mike,
you.
Mike, your reaction?
Well, I couldn't agree with Jack more. You know, his interpretation is spot on. That's what I would interpret too. Let me start off by saying I'm no poet. And in fact, I barely passed English or literature in high school. But you know, I don't know how old he was when he wrote this, but he seems to be pretty self-aware and comfortable in his own skin when he says, "I celebrate myself and sing to myself."
Well, he worked on this poem for 10 years, so he was continually revising.
But you know, it's saying that it does take a mature person to say stuff like that and be comfortable with themselves and to celebrate themselves.
Right.
I mean, I know it's taken me a long time to grow up and feel comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
I'm nearly 37 years old, and you know, I think I'm finally getting there.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
so
not always gender either. It's just getting to know yourself in whatever way it manifests, in whatever way you need.
Yeah. I was just struck, and why I brought him up today is, you know, first of all, I love him as a poet, but as a thinker, right? And also just the irony that we're still, I'm just going to use the word wrestling with the same issues that he was right after the Civil War, you know.
History repeats itself.
History repeats. And so I think there's always something that we can bring forward. Another thing I just want to, before we move on, about Whitman, before we do, is he has this amazing essay out there called Democratic Vistas, where he actually tries to make an attempt for people to look and consider a nation that would be built more out of nature and differentiation and an understanding of that, and actually apply it to the growth of the American culture. So I just think he has a lot to offer us, whether it be poetry or nonfiction. But I just want to bring him up not to teach today, but more to interview the both of you. And I want to go right here, a statement that I personally like in terms of the dialogues, right? In terms of the words we use around this hotbed issue, term gender diversity or simple diversity instead of equality. If that became more in vogue or politically correct, might that help articulate what society ought to do? Again, I'm just going to say gender diversity, simple diversity, instead of equality. Let me throw that to Mike.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Bob. I mean, everything's diverse. You know, if you think about it, nothing is really equal unless it's, let's say, mathematics or measurements. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to be able to adapt and change with life's diversity. Otherwise, you become obsolete as humans. You know, at the end of the day, it's about the human spirit that Whitman was talking about and that interconnectedness between spirits.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm not very religious or spiritual, let's say, but, you know, in reading that, I can have my own thoughts about what he's trying to say, and Jack can have his thoughts about what he's trying to say, too, you know?
Yeah. But I sometimes I think the word equality gets us into too much of a narrow understanding of
for sure.
of a direction I think that would be more productive. But that's my bias. That's what I'm bringing up. And so it's gender diversity instead of gender equality, et cetera. Jack, say your reaction?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more inclusive. And I think people forget why being inclusive is important. And that's because as many, you know, members of the LGBTQ community as there are, and as many even gender and racial minorities as there really aren't that many. And it can really change lives for people if from a young age they are taught that what they are is the norm. Mm-hmm. Because it is. They're just regular people. I'm a regular person. I like comedy and weird music, and I have a lot of friends, you know? But if people are raised from the get-go that this is the norm, then it deletes so much hate, and it deletes self-hate, and it's really just an improvement for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. And it educates people who do not know what it's like to live as a minority in some way socially.
I never understand why people are always so involved with other people and what they do or feel or say, and people really should just worry about themselves. There's so much to do with your own life. I don't understand why people are always so worried about other people and what
and you
they're
got to
doing.
help others, but yeah, what you're saying is people need to essentially mind their own business.
100%.
When it comes to what would have been a hateful reaction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're coming through with a tradition of classification, right? For the norming of society and boys playing with boys, girls playing with girls, and we've evolved through Title IX, and there are all a host of things that are bringing us, I think, in a more enlightened direction. But I just want to, again, before we're going to be heading to break shortly, and what I'd like to do is just touch on this one thing about this question. Aren't words and terms important to enact change, to enact social change? Aren't the words we use important?
Of course. I mean, some words can be hateful and divisive and separate people, and other words can bring people together. I mean, I don't like to talk politics, but you can see it in the political climate.
Well, this is in the political realm as well, obviously, right? So it's a hot issue because it's politicized. But I really think we can have a nice three-person discussion here just in terms of how we are, as educated people, thinking about it. Jack, same question about the words that we use.
Oh, I think it's all about words. I think it's unfortunately too much about words and not enough about action.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Explain that briefly.
Because everybody says, "Oh, I'm not a homophobe," or "I'm not a racist," and then they act differently, and they get bad habits kind of accumulated into their daily life habitually, and it's too much talking, it's too much branding, and not enough doing, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Even simply saying you're proud. Well, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. You know, use that. Help people. Mm. I think we're lacking that unity, and I think that if people work toward that more, then it would be super stellar.
Can I piggyback off of what Jack said?
Let's pick up right after a short break
Sure.
there, okay? Because we're going to be talking about school clubs as agents for social change. We're really in the realm of what